This short 5-minute video will talk about quoting and how to do it properly following APA, the 7th edition. So quoting is when you copy text from a document and include it in a paper that you are writing, word for word, with quotation marks around it, followed by an in-text citation. You quote something when you need the exact wording the original author used, or if you're analyzing the language or word choices of an author. You must quote properly. If you don't, you risk a plagiarism charge. When you quote, you must copy the original text exactly. Your quotes should be short and must include an in-text citation directly afterwards. There are a few other rules that you must also follow, which we will look at in the next slide. So let's look at an example. Here is text from an article. Indeed, libraries as an institution provide the last vestige of free, open, and most importantly, accurate information access. While so much is available, so much of what is available is simply put junk. The world needs a place where one can go to find reliable information. So if we wanted to quote the text that is in red, it would look like this. This example shows some of the other quoting rules. So let's look at the word libraries. In the quoted text, we can see that there's a capital L, and in the original text, there's a lowercase l. If you need to change a lowercase letter into an uppercase letter or vice versa, you are allowed to do so, as long as it makes sense grammatically. Rule number 2. If you want to remove something from the original in your quote, you are permitted to do so, but you must put an ellipses, or 3 dots, in the place of the removed text. Make sure that if you remove something from the original, your quote still makes sense grammatically and it still means the same thing as the original. Number 3. If you want to add or change something in a quote, you must put that change or addition in square brackets. We will talk about why you might want to do this in the next slide. If you are quoting something that had quotation marks already in it, you must use single quotation marks in your quote to indicate that the original had quotation marks. For example, look at the word junk that is highlighted in yellow. You'll see in the original quotation, the junk has quotation marks around it. So in my quote, I must put single quotation marks around the word junk. And finally, you'll see that we must include an in-text citation at the end with the author's last name, the year, and the page number directly after the quote. Note that the period goes outside of the citation and not inside of the quote. So the 3 main rules that you want to remember from that are the ellipses, the 3 dots. If you remove part of a quote that is non-essential to the meaning, you use 3 dots to indicate that you have removed something from the original. And you only have to use ellipses in the middle of quotes. You don't have to start a quote with the 3 dots or ellipses or end a quote on the 3 dots or ellipses. Square brackets are used when changing or adding a piece of information to a quote. So for example, if you want to change the verb tense, for example, changing something from the present tense provide to provided, I put the D in square brackets. Or if you want to make something clear, for example, if I use the pronoun it in my quote and it's not clear what I'm talking about, I could put the object, the door, in square brackets. Finally, the single quotation marks is when you quote something that has quotation marks around it in the original document. So for example, if my quote was, when the cat ran outside, she yelled, single quote, come back, single quote, and ran after it. Let's look at quote integration. What this means is that you start a sentence yourself and then you finish it with the quote. So here is an example of incorrect quote integration. If I wrote, men are the sole cause of the war, and then, may God forgive the men who brought about this war, I have not integrated my quote properly. What quote integration means is that I start the sentence, Rhodes describes men as being the sole cause of the war when he states, comma, and then I finish the sentence with the quote, may God forgive the men who brought about this war. There are many verbs that you can use to help you integrate your quote properly. Here are some examples of words that will help you with your quote integration. Just make sure that you use these words in the right contexts. They're not interchangeable. So for example, insists does not mean the same thing as suggests. Make sure you use the right word in the right sentence. If you have questions about quoting, or if you want to make sure that you've quoted something properly, you can always email myself, Kim Muncie. You can also watch the other APA videos, such as what is plagiarism, how to properly do your in-text citations, how to do your references, and how to paraphrase properly.